Intriguing. An intriguing match day 2 across the EFL. That's what we're talking about today on the Not the Top 20 podcast, the number one EFL podcast. I'm Ali Maxwell. I've got George Elek with me. There are 10 teams still on maximum points, 2 from 2 to kick off the campaign. There are 12 teams without a single point. So we'll get into the triumphs and those that are starting to feel like disaster might be on the horizon over the next hour and a half or so. Hello, George.
Hello, Ali.
George is in France. I'm going to let you, the listener, decide one of 2 reasons why he's in France. Option A, he is on a stag do that has bled into Monday. Or B, we have sent him to investigate the origin story of Régis Lebris for an athletic-style long read on NTT20.com.
We should have actually done that. I mean, it is option A, but maybe it should have been option B. I am on a stag that, interestingly, the reason it's going from Saturday to Monday was because we played an 11-a-side game against a local French team on Saturday evening. And
Amazing.
one of the stag organisers, who is a very good footballer and a very serious footballer, didn't want us to be hungover for the game, which is why we just flew out and played immediately. And the sad fact was that we said, you know, we're all in our early 30s, and we basically called them up before and we said that we want to play against you, but is it possible if we could play your vets team? And they were like, absolutely fine. So we were going to play against people who are like a bit older, and then we turned up and they were like, yeah, sorry, you're playing our first team, and we've been promoted in the last 3 seasons out of our league, and we just won the league last season. So we lost. We lost 10-0.
Oh no, mate!
Which is a shame. I played right centre back and right back. Did one heroic last-ditch tackle, which was video, and I'm looking forward to seeing it back.
Yes.
But I also managed. I did a shift in goal late on, and I won a bottle of wine in the awards that evening for the worst moment of the game when I rushed out for a 1-on-1. It was a heavy touch from their lad, and I was about to kick it away, and then I suddenly realised I was going to clatter into the guy, so I pulled out and fell over, and he rolled into an empty net.
Oh no! Oh no! Well, that's if Ethan Horvath, the Cardiff keeper, is listening to this, he might be made to feel a little better about what happened to him on the weekend. Sorry, you played right centre back and right back. Who's the manager? Scott Lindsay.
Yeah, we started off with a 3-4-3, and then very quickly, as often is the way, we went to 4-4-2 after about 20 minutes. I thought we were better as a 3-4-3 though, personally.
Amazing. A 10-0 defeat on an 11-a-side game on a stag do. That's quite bleak, but I'm sure you're having a nice time. We've got lots to talk about. We're also quite excited this week because we are able to announce a very exciting new partnership for the Monday pod, and our partners happen to be a brand, an app that just happens to be certainly my and your most used football app by miles. Welcome to the start of the Not the Top 20 Monday pod era with FOTMob.
Yes, really exciting. We are excited to announce this. They're not coming on as kind of sponsors of the show as we've had in the past, but we are going to, we're working with the guys, and we're going to have a special segment of the Monday pod going forward, which will be called the FOTMob Corner, where we chat through something that's happened over the course of the weekend through the prism of our favourite football stats app. If you haven't got FOTMob already, there is a link in the description to the show, both on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcasts. It is head and shoulders above everyone else in terms of what it offers. Not only will it give you the scores live, but the depth of stats that it gives you. It has XG numbers provided by Opta across not only the Championship, but League 1 and League 2 as well, which you don't really get anywhere else. If you click on players, you can see shot maps, you can see like in-depth data points around all aspects of their game. Got some good radars on there too. It is an amazing resource to have, and I think, frankly, it makes mine and your job much easier anyway, having it to call upon. So really excited to be working with the great guys at FOTMob, and you will see the FOTMob Corner coming to you every Monday.
Yeah, the phrase one-stop shop springs to mind when it comes to the app. And I think that, you know, it shouldn't go without recognising that FOTMob providing XG data as they have done for League One and League Two was pretty groundbreaking and very significant for EFL fans. And now, because it's been a while since they've introduced it, I think people have, it's become very normalised that it exists. But as we well know, 8 years into doing this pod, for the first 5, 6, 7 seasons, getting any XG data for League One and League Two without having to pay a lot of money for a subscription to Wyscout or similar was not possible. So very, very excited for what feels like a great fit, FOTMob and NTT20 in holy matrimony at last. And the FOTMob Corner segment will be coming later on in the Championship. Talk to me about the biggest win in the weekend in the Champ, George. I'm really intrigued to know how this one is going to be seen, because I think there's a few different ways that you can skin this cat. Burnley 5, Cardiff 0. A Burnley fan on the squad, James, said it was a really poor first hour from us. We couldn't get hold of the ball, couldn't hold it up. Cardiff played us off the park. The final score doesn't necessarily tally with that.
I feel like our work here is done. If people are talking about 5-0 wins in that way and looking at the performances rather than the results, then I'm very proud of whoever that was. Yeah, it's a really weird one to assess this, because the game changed after 9 minutes when Horvath basically lets the ball go under his foot and rolls in because he touched it. It is his own goal. An unforced error, of which you don't see that many of those. And then from there, obviously Cardiff's task of keeping Burnley at bay was made much tougher when you're going behind. But it is amazing. You look at the stats for the game. Despite Burnley winning the game 5-0, their expected goals was 0.81. Cardiff's 0.62. So in terms of actual chance creation, there was very little between the two sides. Cardiff dominated. Cardiff had more of the ball than Burnley as well, which you might expect when it comes to game state too. But Burnley were basically very clinical. Koleosho got the second. It'd be very interesting to see if he is still. You get the feeling a bit like a couple of teams last season, Southampton in particular, like Burnley's team, come the 1st of September or the 31st of August, when the window closes, could be very, very different to how it looks now and the players that are playing now. We saw that with Odegaard having scored that brilliant goal on opening day, suddenly turning up at Spurs a couple of days later. I think there could be a couple more of those with Burnley.
That sort of thing is almost becoming like a sort of annual championship norm. But a team coming down from the Premier League, us watching them on opening weekend and seeing a player or two that just look absolutely unbelievable. In the case of Odegaard, I messaged you after his goal against Luton being like, that's the quickest individual I think I've ever seen at this level. And then they get signed by a Big Six Premier League club and you never see them again.
And that's it. Yeah, and I think Koleosho obviously did his reputation no harm in the Premier League last season, so I'm sure there will be interest in him. Brownhill's one who we can probably imagine will stay at the club, took his one-on-one really well. And then 2 goals from range from Gudmundsson, which was a brilliant strike very late on, albeit maybe the keeper should have done better, and Amdouni just before that. So it's a weird one where it's obviously a striking win for Burnley. It means they've now scored 9 goals in the first 2 games, and they're getting goals from all over the pitch from lots of different players. But you probably don't want to get overly excited about it, A, because the performance itself wasn't that great, and B, because you just don't know still what's going to be the case with the with the players who are still to go out. I do think it's a very good start for Scott Parker individually. I think there were he's still seemingly got a lot of questions to answer in the mind of some, and I think to get Burnley underway in the way that they have done, especially because I think some people were expecting, because of the way the Burnley squad has been assembled, that it might be very difficult to turn them into a functioning side quickly, but he seems to have done that. And for Cardiff, there was so much optimism coming into the season. They're yet to score a goal. They've lost at home and then been beaten 5-0 away. But there were elements of this game that showed some promise. So I think we've got 2 games in. For Cardiff fans, probably look at the bigger picture and see that things aren't necessarily quite as bad as the scoreline suggests, and their defeat on opening day is aged pretty well given what happened on Sunday too. Yeah,
and yet with Swansea next up for Cardiff, Swansea away next Sunday, like that is just massive for Bullet, you feel. and you. Again, Cardiff fan on the squad pointing out that maybe it was in a Sunday scouting report pointing out their fixture list is really tough. And even though I think there's an understanding that the style of football is being changed somewhat to accommodate the new players that have been signed, like how much patience is Vincent Tan going to have if they get beaten by Swansea, if it starts really poorly? Yeah, it's a big few weeks for Bullet, I think. A 4-0 win came at the Stadium of Light on Sunday. Really exciting viewing for Sunderland fans, and I think for neutrals as well. This Sunderland side beating Sheffield Wednesday 4-0, wiping out Sheffield Wednesday's +4 goal difference from opening weekend. And it's just a clinical first 25 minutes that saw Sunderland go 3-0 up, and then just a really confident remainder of the match from there, including scoring straight after half-time. A set-piece got them on their way, really nice little routine, great delivery from Roberts, straight onto the head of Dennis Sirkin for 1-0. Then Mayenda, 19-year-old striker, gets his first league goal for Sunderland. Nice take after Wednesday had played a straight ball into the feet of Windass, and I'm afraid Windass, if your defence and your midfielders are, have quite a lot of space between them because they're trying to spread the pitch and stretch it, you can't be trying to flick a little back heel pass into someone else, because he got it wrong. 09 tackled him and the ball went straight through for Mayenda to have a clear shot at goal. It was a pretty disastrous moment for Wednesday. And then 09, who'd kind of created that goal with a tackle, which feels very Luke 09, then scores, bundles home after a set piece had seen Chris Rigg take a shot that was kind of deflected into his path. That was all in the first 25 minutes. Mayenda got the second goal, his second goal rather, which was a beautiful pass through from Chris Rigg. Clark rushing down the left and cutting it across for Mayenda to tap in. So a lovely performance from Sunderland with energy and speed and skill, and I think quite significantly a clean sheet, which makes it 2 in a row now. And look, the most exciting thing here is how they look going forward, is their attacking play, is the fact that they're the youngest team in the league. But the thing that's as important and as significant for me is how they're looking defensively, how they're looking out of possession at the moment, because they've got an energetic press and they are disrupting opposition teams, as we saw for the second goal. They're creating chances through winning the ball back, which is a great sign, but they're also doing what they need to do when they're defending their own box, when they're defending near their own goal. And these are really crucial things for Sunderland to provide a platform for the good stuff going forward. And it's early days, but it's hard not to be pretty excited. And all of this while playing two players in the centre of the park, one of whom, Chris Rigg, is 17. The other, Joe Bellingham, is 18. Bellingham moving into a deeper central midfield role in order to accommodate Rigg, and looked absolutely excellent. And Rigg himself, he almost scored, drew an unbelievable save out of Beadle. He played that defence-splitting pass to set Clark away. He is so young that one shouldn't expect him to be running games, but what he is contributing, particularly in possession, but also doing plenty of work without it, is just so exciting. It's why I think right now in the EFL, he's kind of my number one future star pick. If I had to pick any player in the EFL, Chris Rigg. So as you can tell, I was pretty excited to watch this. What a start for Régis Lebris. C'est parfait. From a Sheffield Wednesday point of view, bit of a shock to the system, I think, the scoreline. I wouldn't be overreacting to this one personally, given how clinical Sunderland were. Two of the first three goals coming from set-piece situations, two of the first three goals really coming from errors from Windass, basically, giving the ball away for the second and playing, playing 09 on for the third goal. Those are the sorts of things that I don't think are going to be the case each week. I just wonder if they might need some compromises away from home, because the Bannon-Ingelsson midfield two that we were all purring about last weekend suddenly looked pretty exposed here, and maybe not doing that much to stem the tide when Sunderland were in attack. So lots for Danny Röhl to think about. The camera kept cutting to him with his tactics board on the bench, moving blobs around, which I did find quite funny. Plenty to think about. It was a hell of a weekend in the Champ, because we've had a 5-0, a 4-0, now into a 4-3, probably the match of the weekend, mate, at Ashton Gate.
Incredible game, absolutely remarkable game, this one. And The key line for me here, and I think what's so impressive about Bristol City's start to the season is how quickly they've managed to integrate new players who are, players who've shown promise without necessarily hitting the heights we know they're capable of consistently. And when you look at the players who played key roles in this game, for Mehmeti's first, a really good move that he finished off at the far post, made by Sinclair Armstrong. It was Armstrong then who scored the second goal, set up brilliantly by Max Bird. I thought Bird was probably the star player in this game, and I'm loving the way that he's being used by Bristol City, with Williams and Knight kind of the two that sit a bit deeper, and Bird actually given licence to be the creative player further forward. He's someone who at Derby mainly played as one of the sitting two, and he's so creative. His delivery and his creativity is such a big part of his game, and it's great to see him flourishing immediately. Obviously, an amazing with Mayulu, who came off the bench and scored again for the second time already this season with a really well taken finish. And then Scott Twine was announced just a couple of days before the game after his loan last season. Such an important signing, you have to think, on a permanent deal, and for him to get the goal to win it was, again, a player coming in and making an impact straight away. Heartbreak from all this, because for those who haven't seen, Bristol City went 2-0 up after 12 minutes. Esser was the man who got them back in the game, scoring the goal to get them back in it with a really well taken finish. He's someone who hopefully will have a breakout season this season, because there's no denying how talented he is. Bradshaw with the penalties make it 2-2, and then Watmore with such a good hooked finish as well. Made it for 3-2, having been 2-0 down. Millwall fans would have been getting very excited, but to go 2-0, 3-2, 4-3, a really topsy-turvy game that Bristol City came out ahead in. And Millwall's start to the season has not been what they'd have hoped for. A defeat at home to Watford and a defeat in this sense. Loads of goals in their games, with a 3-2 defeat and a 4-3 defeat. I think for Neil Harris, it's not what I expected in terms of them looking pretty shocking defensively, but being able to create a fair bit. I assume we're going to see them tighten up in the coming weeks. But frustration for them, but a really important victory for Bristol City, and a really solid start to the season for them.
Yeah, I wouldn't be setting off panic stations when it comes to Millwall, and it sounds like you're on the same boat. However, Neil Harris taking a bit of a shot at those above him post-game. He was asked about incomings, and he said, I don't know, I've no idea. And then he just went, look at Bristol City's bench and look at ours, and you understand the point that he's making, but the fact that he is making these points in post-match interviews 2 games into the season, when everything finished so well last season, Harris having been the saviour, a rejig of things off the field with a lot of senior people departing and kind of a new look structure off the field, for him to now be seemingly taking shots at those above him, that is setting a little... That is one panic station rather than multiple for me. Interesting times, I think, at Millwall. I mean, what an unbelievably fun game on a Friday night for the neutral. I absolutely loved Coventry 3, Oxford 2. I imagine that the way you experienced this was quite different, with a heartbreaking moment for Will Vaulks and Oxford. A late winner from Haji Wright. Just a breathless game.
Yeah, I think it was a good game for the reason that one team was the better team, and that was Coventry. But it's quite rare that you have the team who are clearly second best coming away with a great deal of credit. And for the most part, Coventry fans after the game said how impressed they were with the way that Oxford managed to kind of stick at it. I thought Coventry were very impressive, and the way that they set up early in the first half, where Van Oeck and Bidwell played really high, and it meant that I think anyone who's watched Des Buckingham's coach's voice video from the Bolton game, he spoke then about how when Bolton had a similar threat in the playoff final, his instruction to certain players was to Goodrum and it was to Dale and Murphy, was basically to stay very high and basically not let them pin us. And I think he probably tried to do the same here against Coventry, but Coventry were just very, very good on the day, and consistently were able to get balls wide into those areas, which meant that Haji Wright in particular was able to kind of slip inside the fullback and the centre back and have real joy. And we saw the physical mismatch between him and Sam Long for the first goal, where he it does feel like if you can get the ball into those areas for Wright to run onto, there aren't going to be many fullbacks who are able to live with that aerial threat. Oxford came up the other end with them and scored with a brilliantly taken Kieran Brown finish after Ellis Sims kind of struggled to clear his lines. Van Eyck with a really well taken goal to make it 2-1, only for Oxford then to come back the other way. Mark Harris scoring with an interesting part of his anatomy, which I think any lip readers could see what he was saying to his teammates after scoring.
He's absolutely hilarious, Mark Harris. He's just like, he seems to love getting in sort of running battles with centre backs. I think him and Lati Bodier were having a bit of a thing all second half, and he just makes me laugh. He looks like he likes a laugh, and funny chap.
He likes to rattle people, I think is the scientific terminology for it. And it felt like Oxford were going to get a point, and then just one moment of madness, really, where a bouncing ball facing his own goal, and Will Vaulks, it felt like he had options. It felt like he could have played it out to Bennett, who was wide, or even kicked the ball out of play, but he tried to pass it back to Elliot Moore and basically just passed it straight between Moore and Brown, and Haji Wright was alert to it and rounded the keeper and scored. It was heartbreaking for...
Great composure, that.
Yeah, he did very well. And it was frustrating. Jamie Cumming, you won't see many goalkeepers put in as impressive a shot-stopping performance and concede 3 goals, because he was brilliant on the day. So, massive frustration for us, for Oxford, I should say. Coventry, I think, will feel very relieved. They were not only got 3 points on the board, but also, they were very good. I thought they were really impressive in terms of being able to control the possession and create chances. I think that they were fairly disappointing on opening day, and they left that form well behind them. So, impressed with them. I think that's going to be a bit of a springboard result in order to kind of kickstart their season. And, for Oxford, frustration, but, it's only a point. And I think the performance, again, was... If that's the way that we're going to lose games this season, as an Oxford fan, I'm fine with it. It was a lot to take out of the defeat, just up against a team where it would be no surprise to anyone if they're a Premier League side next year.
Yeah, hugely enjoyable, and made me kind of excited about the Championship overall. We ended up having a very high scoring weekend, so the goals per game rate so far in the Champ is nice and high, nice and exciting. But I think, I keep banging on about the fact that I think that the poor teams at the level now play in a certain way where they don't just accept being second best and just defending and hoping for the best and pumping it forward. Like, Oxford didn't have the ball very often, but when they had it, particularly in the second half, I thought looked to play really nice, quick 1-2s, ball carrying, like exciting transition football. And if that's going to be the case for teams who are spending the majority of their time defending, we're going to have a great league this year that should be competitive across the board. So really excited about that. I think there's only 2 or 3 teams playing 3 at the back now, 3 centre-backs, which 2 seasons ago was more than half the division. And incredibly basic to say, it just means we have more attacking players on the pitch, fewer defenders on the pitch, and more goals are being scored. And I kind of feel like that's part of the essence of the Championship, or at least what the Championship kind of purports to be: exciting, unpredictable, dramatic, and I'm pretty up for it, I must say. Watford 3, Stoke 2. How about this then from Watford? No drama here, no panic here. Just Tom cleverly overseeing a really impressive display and performance and win. Not the way that
it was 3-0, not 3-2.
There you go. 3-2 last week against Millwall. 3-0 this week. Not too many issues at the back. Unlike last week against Millwall, where they did look a bit wobbly, Watford. And unlike against Millwall last week, these 3 goals did not come from bits of fortune or bits of individual skill. This was an excellent team performance. So really exciting stuff. I thought the system that they're playing, which is one of the few 3 at the back systems in the league, is looking great. Sort of 3-4-2-1 shape. 2 number 10s behind a striker. I think in that system, the 2 number 10s are obviously very, very important. If they get marked out of the game, or if they don't get on the ball much in dangerous areas or can't do much with the ball when they do get on the ball in dangerous areas, then things can look a little bit stodgy. The wing-backs are also crucial in a system like this, and everything clicked in the second half in particular. You had Larousse playing left wing-back, looking really fun. You had Ryan Andrews, 21 under 21 pick from this season, who's had a flying start to the campaign at right wing-back, and then Edo Kayembe smashing in goals left, right and centre in this sort of goal-scoring number 10 role with Chak Vitadze next to him looking an absolute superstar at this level. So really exciting stuff. I think it's also worth pointing out they've got two 22-year-old English defenders playing in the outside centre-back roles as well. James Morris, who's an academy kid, 22 years old, left-back by trade, playing in that sort of nice hybrid left centre-back role where in possession you're still taking up a lot of left-back type areas, but defending in a back three. And then Matty Pollock on the other side, kind of seizing his chance, and only still 22, Matty Pollock, which feels crazy because I thought he'd been around for ages. So couldn't have been a better performance and afternoon really at Vicarage Road. Really positive stuff, just what they needed. Great boost for Cleverley, I think, sort of establishing himself as a manager at this level, and hopefully, a few more bodies through the door in the next couple of weeks, and any talk of any relegation fears could be put behind them. 6 points from 2 games, not a bad start.
Yeah, I think there are ways of winning, and I was happy last week to cast some shade on the promise of that victory at Millwall, but very much the opposite in this one. I think it was all around a really impressive display, probably one of the best performances of the weekend. And as you say, you look for evidence for managers and their ability, and I hadn't seen that much up to Saturday, but I think Saturday's performance, the manner of the victory, the way that they played, is a pretty strong tick in the Cleverley book in my mind.
Yeah, another 3-0 win came in South Wales. Swansea 3, Preston 2. I mean, a comfortable home win. Make no bones about it. However, not a huge amount going on in the match until a penalty incident on the 40th minute where Yeom Ji-sung kept the ball alive, a ball down the right-hand side, managed to hook the ball in, just about keeping it in from the looks of things. And then Liam Lindsay, who'd moved across to try and block the cross, turning into one of those like inflatable figures outside a car garage, just sticking his hands up, hitting his arm, just very unnecessary it looks really, and a penalty scored by Grimes. And where Preston are at the moment, low on confidence, low on quality, low on vibes, that was that really. The 2-0 goal was nice work down the left, a cut back to Cooper, whose shot hit Cullen and went in. And then the third goal, again, nice play down the left. Ronald's looking very dangerous, very quick, particularly in the second half of games against tired defenders. And he got it into Zan Vipotnik for his first goal for Swansea. So brilliant first home game of the season for them. Kind of perfect to get that confidence up ahead of the derby this weekend against Cardiff. From a PNE point of view, I mean, the shambles gets more shambolic, really. They're now 7 losses in a row in the Championship without scoring. 5 to end last season and now 2 to start this campaign. Mike Marsh, who was in interim charge and had initially said he wanted the job full-time, resigned after this game, is now no longer the interim manager and has stepped down from that role. So whether they appoint a new manager in the next 5 days or not, they will have a third different manager in the dugout for their third league game of the season. The current favourites are Brian Barry Murphy and Paul Heckingbottom, who I think I could make a case for both of them. I think they're offering quite different things. Personally, due to the squad makeup and the kind of situation for Preston, which has to be now like just trying to get results and trying to get back to being the team that kind of grinds out points, I would think that Heckingbottom would be a more obvious fit for the squad as it is right now. Brian Barry Murphy would likely be an instigator of a huge stylistic change, which I would be excited about to an extent, but equally I would be nervous about him having to do that with the season having already got underway. So yeah, interesting to see where PNE turn next. It was a bad afternoon, it's been a bad few weeks, and they really need to make a good appointment as soon as possible. Derby 1, Middlesbrough 0. This was one of the early games on Saturday. George, how did it go?
They came, they smashed, they grabbed. I think is the best way to describe this one. This is, if you haven't got FOTMob, I would say download it now and have a look at the shot map if you want to get a good idea of how this game went, because Derby went ahead after 14 minutes. Caden Jackson seizing on a similar moment, I guess, to what we were talking about a second ago, with just catching onto a loose pass and running in and rounding the keeper and making it 1-0 to Derby fairly early. And after that, it was an absolute onslaught from Borough, who created 20 shots in the game, 2 big chances, an XG of 1.73, 500 completed passes to Derby's 160, like fairly relentless pressure throughout the game, and just came up against a bit of a wall in the case of Josh Vickers, who put in a really good performance to keep them at bay. Massive frustration for sure. We had big chances from Azaz, from Bergsorg, from Hackney, all unable to convert them. It's an important win for Derby off the back of what was a hellish opening day, where they were beaten by Blackburn. In Caden Jackson, their new front man. I think important for him to get off the mark. I think he's someone who could really thrive in this Derby side. I think he fits what, he's got the physical attributes that Paul Warne looks for, but a bit of quality in the final third too. Frustration, I'm sure, for Borough, who will feel like they should have won this game, let alone losing it. So annoyance for them. I'm happy to see that Bergsorg started pretty well at Borough. I see Borough fans are liking what they see from him immediately. I think in a good side, he's going to look a lot better maybe than he did last season for a struggling Huddersfield team. I'm sure it'll click pretty soon for Borough, but just this was one of those days where the ball just wouldn't go in.
Yeah, and I think Isaiah Jones, who played that really poor under-hit pass, the through ball essentially for Caden Jackson, I can't help but think he's being punished by the footballing gods for what we spoke about last Monday, where he had scampered through with a teammate to his side and only the keeper to beat last week, and instead of just squaring it for a tap-in, he tried to score himself and it was cleared off the line. And I just think if you will tease the footballing gods like that, if you will go against footballing law like that, then it will come back to bite you, and that happened within a week, I'm afraid. Loads of draws in the champ, two all draws. Sheffield United and QPR was a sort of tale of two halves, really. Blades going 2-0 up in the first half pretty early, fueled by former Coventry City teammates, now Sheffield United teammates, Gustavo Harmer and Callum O'Hare, Hugh El Arbitro nicknaming it O'Harmer. The first goal, Harmer into O'Hare, kept running, O'Hare lays it off back to him and he just spanks it in from the edge of the box with power into the bottom corner. Then it was O'Hare running the counter-attack, Harmer galloping forward, getting round the outside, slipped in by O'Hare, cut back across for more. 2-0 up, and you'd think that should be that, but half-time change probably made a big difference in a weird way, even though it was Jack Colback who came on for Varane, and Colback ends up getting sent off for 2 yellow cards within 4 minutes of each other, neither of which was for a foul, both of which were for dissent. Not ideal, but QPR had basically started really strong in the second half. 5 shots in the first 10 minutes of the second half, culminating in Jimmy Dunn with a little near post flick from a corner to make it 2-1. After going down to 10 men, you think Blades are obviously going to see this out, and instead QPR sort of kept on coming, and absolutely delightful finish from Lyndon Dykes. Just the sort of take that I don't expect from him. It was cut back from Saito, the new player who looked bright off the bench, and it was cut back to him with some speed. He didn't have much time to think about it. Maybe that was to its benefit. Just stroked it into the far corner. Assists for QPR's 2 new attacking midfielders, Dembele and Saito, which is really exciting, and they are going to need them because Chair is still out injured. Anderson came off injured here as well. So really, there's no time for Karamoko, Dembele, and Saito to kind of settle in. They need to get straight into it. But very impressive second half, I must say, from QPR. Same scoreline at Norwich, 2-2 against Blackburn, who went ahead through Ryan Hedges. Nice little transition attack led by the new striker, Maktar Gay. Did really well to slip in Hedges, who finished nicely. And it got to an hour with Norwich 1-0 down here. And I think there's a part of me that thinks that could have been warning signs starting to flash on the dashboard. But they'd played pretty well, Norwich, and I think that was being recognised, and they missed a ton of chances in the first half, particularly Sargent, who then scored an absolute beauty. Just a strike with his left foot from 20 yards, just full of the anger that had come from the squandered chances in the first half. He then sets up Sainz for the 2-1 goal, and you think probably Norwich will coast at that point. But what a start to the campaign for Blackburn and for John Eustace and for Yuki Ohashi, who is just goals. This time, just a nice number 9 header from a cross. He scored against Derby. He scored against Stockport. He scored against Norwich. He also scored in his last 2 games for Sanfrecce Hiroshima. So 5 in 5 now for Ohashi. And Rovers have scored 4 goals already in the league this season from substitutes, which is 1 more than they scored from substitutes in the entirety of last season. They only got 3 goals from subs. So another entertaining game. One notable name to look out for is Gabe Forsyth, who is a young Norwich player, 18-year-old Scottish wide player who played here. Had one really nice strike from range that was well saved from the Blackburn keeper, and I think very notable that Forsyth is getting starts after impressing in pre-season. Argyle won, Hull won. We saw Ibrahim Sissoko score his first goal for Argyle, and he took his shirt off so quickly. I think it'll be tough to beat that this season. It was off within a second. It was flying in the air within another second.
It's a bit like you in Dortmund.
It's a bit like me in Dortmund. Yeah, oh God. Forgotten about that. And if you're Hull, sometimes you just need your captain to take charge of things. Louis Kyle gets the ball at right back, carries it 50 yards, darting past 2 Argyle defenders. Then Hull have a 6-on-4 advantage. Kyle lays it out to the left. It's cut back, and there he is. Left foot, weaker foot, don't worry about that. Just curled it into the top corner for a 1-1 draw. 2-0 nils came, George, at Portsmouth. 0-0 draw against Luton. And West Brom goalless against Leeds.
Yeah, the Baggies Leeds game was pretty uneventful. Ampadu tried to score from the halfway line and put it wide. Interesting to note that Baggies actually had more of the ball than Leeds, which might tell us a little bit. Probably not that much about Leeds, so I think we know how they'll play, but maybe that's 2 games in a row where Baggies have been very possession heavy, so possibly Corberan looking to implement a style that I guess will align closer to the teams that are generally successful in the Championship. Normally they're teams who are ball dominant, and that looked to be the case here. Luton Pompey was dominated by a player that was only on the pitch for half an hour. Kaminsky made 2 very good saves to keep Pompey at bay, and then was sent off for a second yellow, having charged about 40 yards out of his goal and committing 2 pretty bad fouls. So,
and he'd already been booked, I think, for time wasting before that.
After 29 minutes, I thought when I first saw it that he was getting 2 yellows, 1 for each foul, which I think would have been fair. I think if he wasn't already on a booking, I think maybe the second was a sending off anyway, because it was absolutely horrific.
Can you get, or have you ever seen someone get 2 bookings for 2 fouls in the same instant?
Because I feel like I've seen it relatively recently, but I can't remember.
The Bolton wing-back yesterday, your Hungarian mate Schön,
yes,
he got beaten by Wrexham's right wing-back, Revan I think it was, and he pulled him back, just yellow card every day of the week, but he didn't bring him down, and then he caught up with him and just chopped him down from behind, also a yellow card every day of the week, and he got booked. And I thought, I'd quite like to see both, but maybe it's sort of contingent. You know, the second one can only happen because advantage has been played. I don't know. Difficult one. 0-0 in both of those. I saw Mengi getting a lot of shouts, even from Pompey fans, as just having had an unbelievable game for Luton here. I mean, it is crazy how high their defensive line is at the moment, and obviously Burnley made the most of that. Portsmouth kind of did, with even the red card incident kind of comes from a ball in behind. Luton have got to work out how to defend those looking a bit more comfortable, otherwise it's going to undermine them, I think. Time for FOTMob Corner.
Yes.
Episode 1. And I mean, the idea behind FOTMob Corner is that there'll be a segment that's powered by FOTMob's offering when it comes to stats, information and data. It's going to be different each week, so don't get too comfortable. This week we're taking a look at their championship team of the week. George, do you want to run through it?
Yes, so if you go to the FOTMob app and you go to a league, there is a heading at the top that is TOTW, where they will do a team of the week every week based on the highest scoring players as per their player scoring algorithm. And it's a 4-3-3. In goal, we have the aforementioned Vickers of Derby, Sirkin at left back, Cabango and 09 centre backs, and Andrews of Watford at right back. 3 in midfield, Chekvetadze flanked by Kayembe and Harmer, and then 3 up front, Wright, Sargent and Mayenda. So, no massive surprises, I wouldn't say, at all in there. I think what's interesting for me about this, about these players, I mentioned him a second ago, but if you look at Haji Wright this season already, and you look at his shot map at the moment, despite playing nominally off the left-hand side for Coventry, the shot locations are really strong. They are close proximity to the goal. They are central. He's had 8 shots in their 2 games, with an XG of 1.87, scoring 2 goals. I basically came away from the game thinking that he has to be a player who is probably the next in line to get a relatively big move, I think, in terms of upward projection. Obviously, he might get there with Coventry, and I think he has to be one of the favourites to score the most goals this season. Similarly, though, and Sunderland fans looking for, we know how desperate Sunderland fans are for them to bring in a striker, but maybe they've just fallen into one who they may not have thought was ready yet in Mayenda, who again, if you look at his shot map at the moment, 2 goals from an XG of 1.56. Location's not as good. You're seeing shots from kind of close to the edge of the area, but even so, a player who looks to have real composure with his finishing, and I do wonder if, I'm sure they'll still want to bring one in because they can't rely on him, but he looks like an exciting player.
Yeah, he is fascinating for me in that, he's 19 years old. They bought him from Sochaux. He had scored 1 senior goal for Sochaux at that point, and he was 18. He's, and they signed Hemir, and they signed Rusin, and now it's Mayenda who's at the top of the depth chart, if you like. Last week, he missed a pretty good one-on-one. He didn't look that composed in that instance against Cardiff, but it was just one chance, and we all over-egg how easy one-on-ones are to finish anyway, but you'd have wanted him to score it. Then he scores 2 goals here. One, just a lovely, confident finish, and the other, a tap-in after showing a nice little burst of speed and movement to make sure that, he was well in front of the centre-back after the ball had been played down the left to Clark. I think, wow, with Sunderland's expectations having risen massively, they've scored 6 goals without reply, their maximum point so far. I'm still a bit nervous about Mayenda being the long-term answer, and I think Sunderland fans are as well. But I do think it's definitely worth saying that without ignoring the context of Sunderland's issues in the number 9 position, every set of fans in the country would be excited to have a 19-year-old like this at their club, a quick striker with a powerful left foot, with who could feasibly develop as they go. His loan to Hibs in the second half of last season went really poorly. I don't know the exact reasons behind it, but even just looking at the matches he played or didn't play on the FOTMOB app tell you kind of what you need to know. He played 45 minutes in his first game, then he wasn't seen for 6 matches, then he played only 12 more minutes in March, and that was it. So what could this player look like with a bit more confidence, in a bit more rhythm? Maybe we will see, or maybe Sunderland will look to bring someone in who'll be the bona fide starter, and maybe Mayenda will be more of an impact player. But fantastic weekend for him. Chakvetadze, I was excited to come back to, because what a fun player he is. And what is it about the Georgian youth academy system that seems to be churning out these incredible attacking players, Kvaratskhelia being the main one, who are they're like throwbacks. They're like sort of playground, street, cage footballers. They all receive the ball in tight areas, and they can take contact. They've got upper body strength. Chakvetadze, they can roll defenders. They can carry it with speed and directness. I mean, he created 7 chances per Opta here. He leads the league after 2 rounds with 10 chances created, and just looks really exciting. And wouldn't be that surprised if he starts attracting interest, and that they come under some pressure with bids for the next 2 weeks, because a player like that has just a lot of uses at any level, really. Ryan Andrews, good to see him in the team of the week. 21 under 21 player. I think played so many minutes last season, and what I notice about Andrews is he's so quick, but he gets up and down so quickly that he's often receiving the ball like a couple of seconds after Watford have won it back, and he's coming from a right wing back position, and all of a sudden he's right attacking the back line of the defence, and I think it's really exciting. He obviously scored here, but he had the shot that was tapped in for the first goal. Sirkin, brilliant to see, another 21 under 21 alumnus, and I think just a brilliant profile for a left back in a back four. I think for the modern championship, he's good going both ways. He's not unbelievably unbalanced in terms of being like an amazing attacking fullback, but not so good defensively, or vice versa. He's physical. He can play left centre back in a 3 if they want to switch in game. Love what I'm seeing there. And I think we should just flag up Josh Vickers again. He is the least fashionable name in this team of the week, I think it's fair to say. But he had a fantastic game. He helped Derby get all 3 points. And you wonder if it might be his last game. Probably not now, as a keeper for Derby, given that they signed last week Swedish keeper Jakob Wildels Zetterström. And he is, I expect, will be Derby's number 1 before long. So Vickers, he's going to have to keep putting in these displays to keep the gloves. We do have 3 Swedish goalkeepers now in the Championship, with Dovin, the new Coventry keeper, with obviously Victor Johansson, the Stoke keeper, and now Zetterström as well. Great team of the week. Love talking through that. Kayembe and Harmer were brilliant as well. Sargent, he's in there, and what a goal he scored, but also missed quite a few chances as well. Cabango and 09, the centre-backs. 09 just leading from the front for Sunderland, and Cabango had the most touches, most passes in that game for Swansea. Not all of them boring sideways and backwards passes. He had 11 passes into the final third as well. So he is getting the ball into dangerous areas for Swans, which is what they need. That's FOTMob Corner for this week, looking at their Championship Team of the Week. Download the app using the link in the description of the podcast. I promise you will never look back when it comes to an app that is giving you all the scores on weekday nights, on Saturdays, on Sundays now we're getting games as well. XG data updating live, shot maps updating live, but also so much else in terms of the sort of stats in the database, player insight information, etc. In League One, we got a couple of teams who are on maximum points, George, and one of them, Stockport County, their first away game in League One this season. They went to Blackpool, whose home record last season was very strong, and Stockport have beaten them 3-0.
There's a few of our pre-season stances haven't aged that well, Watford being one of them. I think Stockport is the one that we can currently say, yeah, we saw this coming and it has started really well. So impressive for them to go to Blackpool and get the win in what was a relatively cagey game up until the first Stockport goal. But what a goal it was. And it was Louis Barry just again showing how good he is. It reminded me of Pro Evolution Soccer from about 15 years ago, where you would just get the ball wide left and you would cut inside and you would jink about 4 defenders and then let fly, and it basically went in every time. It's much harder to do in real life than it was in Pro Evo, but Louis Barry still managed it with a fantastic goal. I'm just so happy that he's, over his injury issues, he's back in a Stockport shirt and he's firing, because it was a joke that he was playing in League 2 last season. He should probably be playing at least the Championship now. He is someone who I'm loving watching him develop, and he's started the season looking like one of the best attacking players in League 1. They compounded Blackpool's misery. Jaden Fevrier scoring the second after a really nice bit of play by Lewis Bate, carrying the ball out in midfield, kind of feigning a shot and laying it off to Fevrier to finish. Another new signing who settled in really quickly at Stockport. And then Oloafe with a really nice, smart turn and shot in injury time to make the point safe. An excellent start for Stockport. They have massive injury issues at the moment. We saw the team they put out when they were beaten 6-1 in midweek against Blackburn, basically off the back of the fact they don't have any squad depth. They're going to need to add probably some in the next 10 days because they had bad injury issues last season as well, but they need some depth in order to look after the starting players. But settling to life in League One very well. You worry for Blackpool. It feels slightly to me like this Critch era is starting to circle the drain, and it feels like the Blackpool fans are kind of done with it. It was interesting to see that he started Rob Apter, a right wing back here, but as we've said a fair bit talking about Apter to Blackpool, it feels like it's just a terrible fit right now. The way that Neil Critchley insists that his team play, the formation that he insists on playing, doesn't suit Apter or whatsoever, doesn't get him in the right positions in order to hurt teams like we saw him do last season at Tranmere. So, yeah, it'll be, obviously their rivals down the road are currently looking for a new boss, and it wouldn't surprise me unless Neil Critchley can get some results relatively soon if Blackpool could be following them.
Ryan Lowe's available? Probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah, I want to talk about Wycombe 2, Birmingham 3. Birmingham get their first win of the season after that opening day draw against Reading, and it's pretty cool the way that they're going about playing their football. It's going to come with some teething issues, as we've seen both in the Reading game, where frankly Reading were matched them, if not better them, for a large part of that game, and Wycombe did score 2 goals here. However, Birmingham dominated the ball, dominated the territory. They completed more than 4 times the amount of passes that Wycombe completed in this game, just to give you an idea of how they're approaching this. They did go behind, and it was a counter-attack, and it was brilliant work from Kieran Sadlier, who had Wycombe's 2 best moments with 2 fabulous assists. Firstly, for Bielik's own goal, and then at the end for Vokes' goal. But in between that, it was Birmingham's 3 goals. Alfie May, after good work from Ethan Laird, he needs to start putting in really strong performances. He was poor on opening day, but he did what he does pretty well and kind of contributing to the attack. For May's goal, and then the second goal for Birmingham was easily my favourite moment of the match. Luke Harris with a beautiful pass out wide. So beautiful that I assumed it was Mark Leonard at first, because that's the sort of pass that I associate with Mark Leonard, but it was Harris who played it out wide. He found Ayumu Yokoyama, who's their new left winger, who looks really quick, really dribbly. He did some quick stuff and some dribbly stuff and laid it back for Harris, or played it across for Harris to finish really well first time. And then Willemsen with an absolute thumping finish for 3-1 after another nice quick attack. So it's like they're doing the possession, but actually a lot of their best attacking stuff has been come when they've been able to play forward quickly and play into space, and being able to both have that threat and be open to playing it forward quickly and kind of knowing the right time to do that and when to hold on to it. It's all kind of elite level football type tactics, and if they can get to a point where it's being implemented automatically, where it becomes second nature to them like it did for Ipswich, then they're going to blow teams away. I think they're going to score a lot of late goals just because it must be super tiring playing against a team that's keeping the ball this well. So for Wycombe, they've now lost both games 3-2. Both times they've been 3-1 down and scored late to kind of make it look a bit closer maybe than it was. But they've also played okay, I think, both against Wrexham and against Birmingham. And, I just feel a bit sorry for Matt Bloomfield because they've got Rotherham next and then Blackpool away. And it's just a bit of a stinker of a fixture list, I think, to start the season. I'm finding it hard to work out exactly what their level is. I think that'll become clear over the next few weeks. Huddersfield, they've started well, George. 2 wins, this time 2-1 against Stevenage.
Yeah, and a pretty cosy win as well. They were good value for it. I think Mike Duff has made a really good start to life at Huddersfield. They look, I think as we always said, it feels just like a much better fit in terms of the way that he looks to play. There's no delusions around the style of play, and the first goal was, in fairness, I think the whole game we saw that Lasse Sorensen is going to be a massive player for Huddersfield, given his delivery from wide areas. He put it on a plate for Koroma with a brilliant ball. Koroma finished it well, and great to see Koroma taking up those spaces as well and scoring kind of a genuine centre forwards goal, because he's a player who really at League One level, if he's going to maintain a level of fitness, should be a massive player for them. Stevenage missed one glorious opportunity in the I think it was just early in the second half and I think it was List. With the goal gaping, rolling it wide of the post, which would have changed things. But Wiles was the man who got the second goal for Huddersfield. Another assist from Lasse Sorensen, so 2 assists on the day for him. A decent finish. And Stevenage scored a very late penalty through Harvey White in the 95th minute just to get on the score sheet. So a pretty regulation win this for Huddersfield. Fairly comfortable in doing so, and a very good start for Mike Duff and his tenure there.
Yes, first time Huddersfield have started the season with 2 league wins since they were in the Premier League, 2017-18.
Wow.
Happy days there. Happy days for the travelling Peterborough United fans. George saw their team win 4-1 at Shrewsbury.
feel like this is really important in terms of not just the result itself, but the manner of the victory, because we have seen so many players of star quality leaving Peterborough in such a short space of time. Edwards, Burrows, these are players who've been such a big part of what they've been. Mason Clark as well. That you're looking at the side now and you're thinking, Peterborough are a team who always have really good young players who are attractive propositions for teams higher up in the pyramid. And right now, apart from possibly Kwame Poku, but I'd almost say that he needs a season to kind of cement that, they don't really have any. But Poku was the one here who, two brilliant finishes, the second one in particular, really special, and it feels like it is his time to step up. He now has to be the player who is going to be the key attacking threat for Posh at the moment. Joel Randall, another one who has had moments of quality for Peterborough, but hasn't dominated necessarily. He scored the other two. He's another player who you could definitely see having a big season and putting himself there. And then he may only have one assist to his name, according to FOTMob and the statisticians, but Ibiodo basically had a hand in creating all 4 goals. And he's someone who didn't start on opening day, forced his way into the team here after a decent display off the bench midweek. And he's someone who, I assumed it would take him a bit of time to get up to scratch, but he was really, really strong here. Very good on the ball. We know he's a good ball carrier. We know he takes the ball into dangerous areas. And as I say, even though it was only one official assist, his running and his passing were key factors in creating all the goals. So, big. It feels like the first big win of a new era for Posh, albeit at the expense of Shrewsbury, who were very, very poor. Took the lead earlier through Carl Winchester with a very good long shot, but struggled to really create anything of note. And you've really got to worry about them, even at this very early stage.
Reading beat Wigan 2-0, and this was a complete thumping. This is really exciting me. Interestingly, this was a match between the two youngest teams in the division. The average age of the starting lineup for Reading was 23.2, and the average age for Wigan was 23.2. So, who's looking better in their youthfulness? Reading are looking much better. This was pure domination, to be honest. The first half shot count was 15-1. The vibes at the Madstad were immaculate because prospective new owner Rob Kuig is in the stands, who was the former Wycombe Wanderers owner. And surely this is happening now. I get really nervous about even talking about this stuff before it's confirmed and jinxing stuff. But his new profile picture on Twitter is him standing outside a massive Reading FC badge at the training ground, wearing a sort of clip-on microphone that gets used for sort of digital media interviews purposes. So I'm hopeful that this will be confirmed probably in the next day or two, and it would just signify such an important new era for Reading. And despite everything that's happened off the field, which could and should and has to an extent undermined what the football team has been able to do, which is why they're in League One. What Ruben Sellers is doing in the dugout with this group of players is quite unbelievable. And, Big Kelvin is the star again for the second weekend in a row. Got a goal, got an assist. Looks brilliant in a similar role to what you talked about with Haji Wright, where he's playing off the left, but he's kind of playing as a goal scorer, and he's picking up really dangerous positions. He's so tall that actually, if you can get him challenging for crosses with the fullback, who's generally going to be a bit shorter than the centre-back, he can use his height to kind of dominate, as he did. And then you can kind of get him picking up awkward positions because he's making runs from out wide rather than, the centre-backs don't really know where he is half the time. Really exciting to see him, start both games and start to show what has always kind of been suggested, which is that this is the sort of player that should and will become like a proper handful of a professional player. And Bengay at the back, so quick, an absolute rock, perfect for this style. Elliott and Kamara in midfield playing really good forward passes. Nibs has found himself a nice little role too. Charlie Savage started after scoring an absolute screamer in the Carabao Cup, and he got a goal as well. So basically could not have gone any better, could not be feeling, and it's great to be able to say it, more positive about Reading right now, and hopefully, the positive energy being brought by a new era, touch wood, can carry them, I don't know where. Like, the way that they've played against Birmingham away and now home against Wigan is about as impressive as any other team in the 72 to start the season. So, yeah, pretty up for it, if I'm honest. Couple of 1-0 winners, George Charlton and Crawley. Charlton beating Orient 1-0 at home and Crawley getting an away win. Both of these two teams with maximum points through 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've got to talk about what Crawley are doing again. I mean, it is just like for them to have picked up 6 points from their first 2 games is incredible, and something they continue to confound. And the game itself, as has been often the case with Crawley, like they weren't by any means dominant within it. Cambridge creating the better chances for the most part. But Adeyemo, who had just missed a chance prior to the goal, scoring with a brilliant finish from a wide area after a very good ball over the top from Flint. And it's enough to get them the 3 points. Scott Lindsay, a lot of speculation about his future, with him seemingly on the shortlist for the Preston North End job. That seems to have gone a bit quiet, which is big news for Crawley fans. And my hunch is that this is going to be a really important time in the season for them, because they come into it and there's a belief there now that they're able to compete. I'm sure there will be difficult times in the season coming up, and the more points they can amass now, the better chance they'll give themselves of keeping out of it when tougher times do come. But frustration for Cambridge. I've seen a lot of Cambridge fans saying that they're liking the change of style of play that we're seeing under Gary Monk. They're liking seeing them looking to get it down and play, which is a positive. I wonder how long that continues if they don't pick up some results. But certainly on the balance of play here, I think, as is often the case with Crawley, Cambridge will come away from it thinking or wondering how they were beaten. But yeah, some signs of promise, and again, just an amazing achievement for Lindsay and Crawley to be on 6 points from 2 games. And
Luke Berry scores goals from midfield. We knew that already. He did that in injury time to win it for Charlton.
Yes, he did. A very similar game, I would say, from Charlton as to their opening day win, where Nathan Jones' Charlton seemed to be a side where we're not going to see loads of chances within games. From a defensive point of view, they look very, very assured. Like, their teams are really struggling to compete with them or create much against them. From an attacking standpoint, I wouldn't say they're looking particularly liquid, but they're able to find opportunities in their first 2 games late on and take them. Berry with a really nicely taken finish off the way after a Chuck Seneke knockdown. You see the strength they've got in attacking players with Aneke and Godden coming off the bench. And there's a lot to like. It just felt like Charlton for a while have been so kind of chaotic in terms of just kind of craziness off the pitch, never really particularly settled. It feels like Nathan Jones has brought, I know a lot of people don't associate Nathan Jones with calm, but it feels like he's brought a steely confidence now to this Charlton side, where they are well drilled, they are assured in terms of their performance level. It feels pretty hard for me to imagine we're going to see some of the abhorrent displays we saw last season under multiple managers. And there's, he's got a massive buy-in from the fan base. So Charlton Athletic, to me right now, seems like a kind of under the radar, to an extent, side where the performances may not be as impressive as other teams, but I don't really see them conceding many chances or many goals, and they, I'm more confident now in them having a good season than maybe I was before a ball was kicked.
Yeah, Northampton are up and running. They beat Exeter 2-1 at Sixfields from behind, and I probably want to start with Exeter here. I think their away performance was pretty spot on for an hour. They were 1-0 up through Tristan Kramer, and they were playing well, and I think they were probably the better side. And then, unfortunately, they were just undermined by mistakes. The equaliser looks really bad on the keeper, Joe Whitworth, on loan from Palace. But, I mean, his centre-backs haven't helped much. One can't tell from watching highlights exactly what the communication was or was not. But just a high punt forward from Northampton. There's just a huge hole in the Northampton defence. So Whitworth sort of half comes to get it, doesn't get there, and Morton's able to finish kind of through his legs. All a bit ugly. Great for Cobblers, great for Callum Morton. I'd love to see him be a success and get his confidence back. And then McGeehan with the winner, in the same way that Luke Berry scores goals from midfield. Cameron McGeehan scores goals from midfield as well, getting on the end of a ball flashed across the box. Again, an error really from an Exeter point of view. Jack McMillan with a poor touch to give the ball away, which led to that opportunity. So great for Cobblers to get the win. I'll probably leave maybe feeling like I'm a bit more impressed with Exeter so far this season out of the two sides. I will just mention that Tarek Fosu came on here for Northampton, and his is a very unusual situation where I thought and still think, therefore, that Fosu is a good Championship player. Not an amazing Championship player, but for pretty much any Championship team outside of, let's say, the biggest 6 or 8 teams, I think Fosu would be a good squad member to have as a direct winger who gets shots off, can dribble both ways. Actually, not that bad defensively at all. Played a lot of games at wing back for Stoke and did fine. And he didn't play for anyone last season. He just had the year off. And I still don't really understand what the situation was. And you'll get lots of different rumours about, various agent demands that clubs just refuse to meet. Whatever the case may be, he just didn't play football for a year. And, he's only 28, so it's a pretty unusual situation. He's pitched up at Cobblers, and I just think if he's not far away from being sharp and match fit, it could just be an unbelievable pickup for them. Like, they need his type of player in order to give them a bit of X factor in wide areas that Hoskins and Pinnock, who are great and give them plenty, but don't really give them what Fosu will. Just think it could be an absolutely unbelievable pickup, and it's probably not what he imagined when he left, when he was a free agent at the start of last summer. But here we go. Northampton 2, Exeter 1. Same scoreline, but the away team winning, George, at Lincoln. It was Barnsley getting their campaign off to getting their first win of the campaign with a 2-1 win.
Yeah, and a big result for Darrell Clarke after a disappointing opening day. And what if you asked me to predict what or kind of paint a picture of what a Sam Cosgrove goal looks like, his opener here is not what I would draw. It was a really deft, beautiful stroked finish into the far corner, showing real composure and quality to get them 1-0 up. And off the back of that, they were relatively good. Lincoln created chances themselves, especially in the second half. Mark Roberts scored the second goal to put them 2-0 up before Ben House scored late on. It wasn't vintage, I wouldn't say, from Barnsley. They only had 6 shots in the game, an XG of 0.35. But they went ahead early and they were able to kind of see it out relatively comfortably. For Lincoln, had such big high hopes for them this season. After their incredible end to the campaign last time around, they won on opening day 3-2 and they've been beaten 2-1 here. I think they look okay, maybe from a defensive standpoint. Certainly in terms of goals conceded, it's a bit of a concern. But as I say, it's not like Barnsley created loads against them on Saturday. I kind of feel like their performance level is still pretty high, albeit maybe they are missing certainly the movement and goal scoring exploits of Taylor and probably Sorensen at right back too, who we've already discussed in an earlier bit. So. Yeah, it's frustration, I guess, for Lincoln not to get over the line in their first game of the season. But I think it's going to be important for Darrell Clarke to get points on the board early for Barnsley to get by. And even though it wasn't vintage, it was a decent win on the road for them.
Yeah, they got a new keeper, Barnsley, Gabriel Slonina, who goes by the name Gaga, which I quite like. Gaga Slonina. I wrote him up on the NTT20.com transfer bulletin on Wednesday, and I finished it by saying could feasibly be really good. And from what I gather, he was really good in this, having been really good in midweek in the Cup as well. I mean, he's a 20-year-old American keeper on loan from Chelsea. He's already played over 70 league games for Chicago Fire in MLS and Eupen in Belgium. And Chelsea have sent a lot of loan keepers to the EFL over the years, and they're generally pretty good. But from what I understand, Slonina is meant to be as good, if not better, than anyone they've ever sent to the EFL. So pretty excited about Gaga Slonina. Mansfield drew 3-3 with Burton, a ridiculous football match, just like two heavyweight boxers just throwing haymakers and not covering their face to defend at all. Mansfield, per FOTMob, had 3.11 expected goals to Burton's 1.27, but 18 shots for Mansfield, 22 for Burton, 40 shots in total. Mansfield, 7 big chances, most of them missed, but they did get themselves a late equaliser after Flint Aidan Flint was tugged in the box, and the penalty finished by Gregory. Billy Bowden looking pretty deadly for Burton. 2 nice goals from him. And then 2 0-0s. But Bolton and Wrexham on Sunday. Fast start for Bolton, but couldn't really execute in the final pass. The end product was lacking, and they kind of ran out of steam in the second half. Game kind of petered out a bit, which I think reflects well on a good away point and performance from Wrexham. And then Rotherham, Bristol Rovers 0-0. Despite Rotherham racking up 20 shots, 5 big chances, 2.23 XG. Josh Griffiths, on loan from West Brom, in the Bristol Rovers goal, having himself a game, saving, I think, 5 shots. But FOTMob, who have XGOT, expected goals on target, suggesting that Griffiths basically saved 1.64 goals worth for his team. So, hell of a performance from him. In League Two, some pretty significant results, George, perhaps none more so than Crewe 0, Chesterfield 5. The Sparrows' first win in the EFL since 2018. Welcome back.
Wow. Yes, wow, welcome back Chesterfield. And just a remarkable display that got off to a very good start when James Berry, after 40 seconds... I mean, I can't really work out what happens here. I've seen the replay a few times. Like, it's either one of the most insane long-range shots I've ever seen, or it's a really loopy deflection that goes over the keeper. I'm assuming it's the second, but you might be able to enlighten me as to, because you've got a very good eye for deflects.
Thank you. I haven't watched as many replays as you may have done, but I almost didn't want to watch too many more because I didn't want to entertain the possibility that it was anything other than just like the most perfect connection, the most perfect dip, and the most perfect placement of the season so far.
You didn't want to look under that rock. Yeah, incredible. 0.01 XG shot, that one, apparently, according to FOTMob. But it flew into the top right-hand corner. Incredible. And that kind of set the tone. Will Grigg scored 10 minutes later. Berry scored 1 minute after that. They were 3-0 down after 12 minutes. 5-0 down after 49 minutes. Naylor, who... I think Naylor thought he'd scored the first, the Griggs goal, but he definitely scored the second from a set piece. And then Dobra with a really nice finish at the outside of his boot, having been set clear. I mean, this was a proper Chesterfield announcing themselves to the EFL with a pretty statement victory against last season's beaten playoff finalists. Crewe have started the season very poorly, and you have to kind of fear for them. Beaten 1-0 on opening day, then 5-0 at home. They were a team who last season defied the data, the underlying numbers for the most part, and did so at the beginning of the season, playing a pretty good style of football. But right now they look miles off where they even were last season, and they need to bounce back relatively quickly, because any more performances like this, they're going to be way off challenging for promotion again. So hopefully they can sort themselves out. But Chesterfield definitely with a performance, especially with a couple of the teams that we expect to be right up towards the top of the table, putting in pretty disappointing displays on Saturday. Chesterfield laying down a bit of a marker.
Yeah, another massive away win. Came at Swindon, went to Walsall. They won 4-0. And look, Josh Gordon put them 1-0 up after 33 minutes, and it was a defensive error from Grant Hall. He just did not connect well with a ball back to the goalkeeper. We see these happen quite a lot. Defenders like Grant Hall don't really want to be defending loads of space and bouncing balls and nippy strikers. And he undercooked the pass. Gordon ran onto it and finished well. It's worth pointing out that Walsall had been the better side up to that point, and they'd had the majority of their shots up to that point. So it wasn't completely out the blue or against a run of play, and they just gained confidence from it. Matt with a nice header to make it 2-0. Brilliant free kick from Taylor Allen just after half-time. It's 3-0 by the 49th minute. The game is done, and Albert Adoma gets one for good measure. I mean, it's pretty exciting. Walsall have won both games without conceding a goal, and it's the defensive side of things that's so impressive so far. They've only given up 0.37 XG from open play in their 2 games so far. That's combined per the FOTMob numbers. And to start the season with that level of organisation and strength and coherence out of possession is absolutely brilliant. Whether or not they will be able to maintain a really strong level of goal threat, I don't know. But again, like last season at the back end, they scored a lot from set pieces. Like, you can eke out a top 7 campaign, if not occasionally a top 3 campaign, with the best defence in the league and like a mid-table attack, you can actually eke out a promotion with that. So getting very ahead of myself there, but really excited about their start of the season. They have got Tranmere next, Walsall, who have started the season with 2-0 nils. I wouldn't be surprised if we see another one there, just because I do think that Walsall defence is quite repeatable. The Walsall attack, we will see. The one thing I love is Taylor Allen's role. Been converted into a left centre-back by Sadler, and it's absolute genius. He looks brilliant. So involved in attack, which is always great fun when you're playing 3 at the back. I think, the cliche which I use a lot is you're only as good as your wing backs. I think I even said that talking about Walsall last week, and Gordon and Barrett have started the season really well, but you can become even better in open play if one or both of your wide centre backs are also offering a lot in possession. It's quite hard for opposition teams to know exactly who to send to pick up someone like Taylor Allen when he starts stepping into the final third, and his crossing from deep areas is excellent. So I love stuff like that. He scored a brilliant free kick as well. My only issue is people are calling him the Canuck Cannavaro, which sounds amazing. I get the alliterative nature of it is important, but Taylor Allen and Fabio Cannavaro about as different as 2 centre-backs could possibly be. So I'd like to veto that. I haven't come up with a better one yet. I will work on that. So 4-0 for Walsall. Brilliant day out. What a start to the season. 2 wins without conceding, which is the same for Bromley. George, 2-0 win again, this time home to Wimbledon.
The cheek of it, at the forefront of it again, scoring a really nicely taken goal to put them 1-0 up before Whiteley made the point safe in the second half. It was kind of as we would expect, I think, from Bromley so far. Not that interested in keeping hold of the ball, being fairly direct, but being very, very solid defensively and taking their chances when they came. It's been a brilliant start to life in the back of the EFL for them. I saw a lot of people tipping them for relegation when I think there's quite a lot of evidence to suggest that teams that get promoted out of the National League are generally better than that, and they look to be at the moment. Frustrating for AFC Wimbledon. They obviously went to Bromley in midweek and beat them in the Carabao Cup. I think they probably would have swapped that victory for 3 points on Saturday, but weren't able to do so. No cause for massive concern. They look pretty toothless going forward. I think Omar Bakil's physical, his physical strength, both in terms of being
his
strong,
physical.
But also his
I
physical.
think you could have just stopped at physical, and we'd have all been like, "Yeah, I know exactly what you mean."
I think that was negated a little bit by the equally physical Bromley defensive line, and that didn't really enable Johnny Jackson's team to play the way they wanted to play. I kind of think they got out Bromleyed. So yeah, impressive by them. I think teams are going to find it very difficult to play against Bromley this season, and which AFC Wimbledon found out on Saturday. So yeah, a very good start to their EFL journey.
Also on maximum points with Bromley and Walsall, Gills went to Morecambe, won 1-0. The match was ugly. The winner was ugly. Gills don't care one bit. Bonner gave what I thought personally was a really good post-match interview where, the inference even within the first question was like, not at our best today. Hopefully we'll play a lot better, but we got the win. And he was just like, yeah, that's for Monday. Like, we will be going through what was not good on Monday. But for now, having gone away to Swansea in midweek in the Cup, then travelled 8 hours it took them to get to Morecambe. He was like, we've just won. We'll be having fish and chips on the way home, and we're absolutely buzzing. And it's just little things like that give you a little sense that Bonner, who, it's no surprise to us that he's endearing himself to the fans with his communication, because it's a real skill of his and a strength of his. But, yes, I don't really know where I stand here. Gills' performances have probably not merited 6 points so far, and so there's a part of me that's like, well, that stuff can catch up with you if they keep playing like that. But just setting the trend of winning games, getting the positive energy and the atmosphere, I think can help to boost performances, quite frankly, over the next few weeks. And it's worth pointing out that they're missing Elliot Nevitt and Josh Andrews, so probably their 2 main strikers. Rowe in the wide areas. They're missing Dieng and Coleman in midfield. They're missing Masterson at the back here. So it was probably never going to look particularly fluid, and it didn't. we will find out a bit more about this Gills team in the next few games where they play Fleetwood, Chesterfield and Doncaster. So a couple of big tests there, but 6 points from 2 games is amazing. The fact that Bradley Dack is back as a Gillingham player is very sweet, quite exciting. I am intrigued to know how Bonner is going to fit him in, because they've already got about 11 or 12 sort of attacking midfielder, wide players / strikers for 3 or 4 slots. And you've got Johnny Williams, who's already the kind of slightly aging quality League Two player. So who cares? I'm excited that Dack is a Gillingham player again. As for Morecambe, some decent bits I think here. There's probably a reason that Gills didn't look particularly fluid, and some of that will come down to Morecambe playing well out of possession, but looked a bit blunt, to be honest, at the top end of the pitch, and that's something that Adams needs to work out. George, my betting picks on the betting show were Middlesbrough and MK Dons. They both lost. When you told me about Borough Derby earlier, you called it a smash and grab. What do you have to say about the Col U2 MK Dons 0, which very much did not go the way I was expecting?
I wouldn't say it was as smashing grabby, personally. It was a game that looked, I think, the way we probably expected it to look, with MK Dons having all of the ball and looking relatively dangerous with it. I wouldn't say they looked fantastic. They weren't able to create loads of opportunities, albeit they had the better chances up to Reed's goal on the 81st minute. Arthur Reed putting Colchester ahead, having not enjoyed much of the ball. A good assist from Samson Tavide. But after that, for the kind of 10-15 minutes after Reed put Colchester ahead, they were the better side, and their dominance continues. Jack Payne, formerly of MK Dons, was at the forefront of most things. It was him who picked up the ball from a deep area and drove it up the pitch to start the move for Reed's goal. And it was him who finished it with a brilliant shot into the far corner. No muted celebration. Mateo Kovacic, you should be watching Jack Payne from Payne, who ran into the corner, arms aloft, as he delivered a blow to MK Dons. I think MK Dons should be fine. I'm not getting overly concerned yet, but it is interesting that their malaise from the back end of last season has continued. It's interesting that they just haven't looked particularly good from open play, having been such a good side last season under Williamson. So he's got a few issues to solve at this stage. Nothing to suggest that he won't be able to do so.
Newport beat Donny 3-1. What an impressive result, an impressive performance, and I'm going to pin a lot of it on the manager, Nelson Jardim, who made a tactical switch from Game 1 to Game 2, switched to a 3-5-2 formation, and it looks to have been a fantastic decision based on what they needed here. I wonder how much of it was a reaction to the left-back, Anthony Driscoll-Glennon, who it's pretty known at this point that Glennon has one of the sweetest left pegs in League 2, and his dead ball delivery and his crossing from deep is as good as it gets at this level. But Anthony Driscoll-Glennon is not very good at defending, and that really came to the fore in week 1, where he got absolutely cooked twice by the Cheltenham right wing back in that 3-2 defeat. And you just wonder whether Jardim wanted a little bit more protection. It makes sense if you have a fullback like that, a wing back like that, probably to make sure you've got someone else who can slide across and defend those areas, and you've still got 2 other centre-backs in the middle to defend the crosses. It worked well. Whitmore, who was a summer signing, played really nicely in an attacking midfield role, both pressing well and then providing some quality on the ball. But the star is Bobby Camwer, and I love stuff like this. A Newport fan on NTT20 squad, Dan Grace, said last week before this game, I already feel like Camwer might be one of our most exciting players in recent years. And you can see why. He looked brilliant here. He sort of played up top, but in a really fluid role where he was picking up the ball wide a lot, which is where he sort of naturally drifts. Looks really strong, looks really quick, really hard to tackle when he gets going. Really exciting display. So brilliant win for Newport. And I can't help but notice that on the League 2 page on FOTMob, they have created the most big chances this season in League 2. They haven't taken that many of them, but they have been creating a lot of chances, Newport. So I think a bit like Burton in League 1, this new look Newport, we are seeing this is a team that's really going for it, and it's pretty exciting, I must say. Carlisle 1, Barrow 0. Derby game decided by defender falling over. Not fair?
Yeah, what else do I need? Yeah, what else do I need to say? Yeah, it is fair. It is fair. Carlisle, probably, even though that is right. Probably relatively good value for the win. But as you say, Adu Ajay, I should say, making the most of a defensive slip fairly early on, and they saw out the game pretty well. Barrow really struggling to create too much by way of opportunity themselves. So, not a great start to the season for Barrow and Stephen Clements, it should be said. But for Carlisle, after that humbling defeat on opening day, to get a fairly comfortable home win will do a lot to take any early pressure off. So, decent result for Carlisle.
Yeah, and a bit like Carlisle, Grimsby also getting their first win of the season, beating Cheltenham 3-2. Probably will be known within the Grimsby fans as the Jordan Davis game. That is their summer signing from Wrexham, making his first start in black and white, his first home game, putting them 1-0 up with a nice header. He's playing centre midfield, he's breaking into the box and heading home. And then, after Cheltenham, having been 2-0 down, had got it back to 2-2, scoring the winner with a brilliant free kick from range. Charles Vernham scored his own brilliant goal, cutting in from the left and bending it in from 20-25 yards. So, sort of high quality of goals being scored by Grimsby in this game. I'm not sure, looking at the quality of the general play, I'm not sure 5 goals would have necessarily been on the menu, but that's what we got. Cheltenham obviously fighting back quite impressively to get level, and one very nice assist from Arkell Jude Boyd for the equaliser, and then losing it thanks to that excellent free kick. So still trying to work both of these two teams out, if I'm honest. One thing that was very notable was how deep Cheltenham's defensive line was. It was like some of the highlights of Grimsby, like built, with the ball in midfield or even with their back line, and Cheltenham just setting up their stall basically on the edge of their own box, just sort of waiting for the ball to get into their defensive third and then fighting to defend it from there, which is it's not a bad thing, it's not a particularly good thing, it's just a thing, and it's just quite notable because most teams don't defend like that. So something to watch. I saw Evan Curry, who's a Grimsby Academy player that's always been mentioned to me as being someone with real quality, a midfielder by trade, but played left back here, which I can kind of see that working for him from what I've seen. If he can defend well enough, I kind of like that for Curry as a way of getting into this Grimsby side. Some lots of draws, some of them more entertaining than others. George Aki 3, Harrogate 3 being one of them.
And one of the most ridiculous goals I've ever seen from Daly after, it's gone kind of a bit viral, and rightly so, because I've never seen such ridiculous head tennis in my whole life, and I cannot understand why. One of the headers from an Accrington player is like headed back into the box. It's almost as if like he's enjoying the head tennis so much, he's like saving it, like get it back in there. Rawson with the penultimate one he just heads it straight in the air, and then it's him trying to head it again. The funny thing is actually the quality of the second goal. I've seen some people talking about how bad the quality obviously is in League 2 off the back of it, but actually the quality of the second is absolutely brilliant. Very end-to-end. Good to see both of Accrington's signings from non-league who played together last season, both getting on the score sheet within 2 minutes of each other, Jimmy Knowles and Kelsey Mooney. Although I'm not sure Mooney had much of a clue what was going on, kind of when the ball ricocheted off his foot and went in, and then following with a very late goal to secure a point for Harrogate. So kind of chaotic, fun League 2 craziness, and a very good game for the neutral.
Worth pointing out that Rawson then had to come off after that because of the thumping header of Daly. I think there was maybe a clash of heads after it, and then Daly didn't come back out after half time either. So just a remarkable incident, that, and what a leap from James Daly to get up and head home. Notts 2, Fleetwood 2 was also quite an interesting draw. I'm a bit angry with this. Cerula won a penalty for Notts to equalise late on, and it is never a pen, these ones, and I hate that they are so prevalent in the game. And I don't, shock horror, I'm not even really blaming the ref here. These are the ones where someone is running towards the ball, and there is a defender, a step behind them and also to the side of them, not directly behind the player. They're both running towards the ball. And then the attacking player, without having control of the ball, just steps across and stops running or slows down, which means that the defender in their running motion runs into the back of them and then they hit the deck. I hate them because I think they're really difficult for refs. They thankfully, mostly, the refs will see that and they won't give them. But occasionally I can see why it looks like a pen sometimes, and I can see why it did in this incident. But I think it's wrong. I think it's really unfair on defenders, and I don't like it. I don't like that led to Notts getting a point here, because I just feel a bit bad for Fleetwood on that front. Notts had 81% possession in this game, which is about as high as I can ever remember in a League Two game, and it didn't mean a huge amount. Crowley was brilliant as always, but they looked a bit toothless, to be honest, and I think Fleetwood played quite well. So Jata, the Langstaff replacement who came in January, that's looking absolute genius now. Both the fact that they plucked him from nowhere, really, in League Two recruitment terms, and also the fact that he was able to have 6 months to adapt while Langstaff was still scoring. He's got 7 in his last 10, so really, really good stuff. Bradford 0, Salford 0 was a match that happened, and Port Vale 0, Tranmere 0. Oh boy, was that a match that happened. Not a huge amount of incident within it. Thank you very much for listening to Not the Top 20 podcast this Monday. We're really loving how these leagues are shaping up to start the season. We hope that our coverage of them is providing you with plenty of goodness as well. So exciting to have FOTMob on board as a partner of the Monday pod. You can download the FOTMob app using the link in the description of this podcast, and join us again later in the week for a betting show. And then on Friday, a Dear Ali and George for NTT20.com paid subscribers. Bien joué, Georges.
Merci.
Au revoir.
Et vous? Au revoir.
Go well.